Hey guys, it's Chris from Highland Guitars, and you're watching another episode of From the Luthiers Workbench. In this episode, I'm going to talk about tools and techniques and why what you do when building a brand new instrument is oftentimes quite a bit different than the tools and techniques that you would use for repairing an old vintage instrument. Then I'm going to talk about some of the projects that I'm currently working on. I'll give you an update. There's basically just a couple guitars that I'm working on right now, and I'll share with you where those stand. And I'm going to finish up by talking about a couple of new designs that I'm working on. I'm currently at the computer refining those designs, and those are going to represent some of the new guitar designs that I'm going to be building here in the near future. So let's get started. Now, as I said at the beginning, the tools and techniques that I use for building guitars, it's important to understand that what I'm sharing with you on my YouTube videos and such is really geared towards people who are building brand new instruments. Whether that's a kit or you're building from scratch, the approach that you have to take is oftentimes a little bit different than what you do when you're repairing a guitar. And that's especially true if you're building a guitar from scratch, because you have so much control over the quality of the wood that you're using in the guitar build. And I've recently noticed there have been some questions that have come up from viewers, and what they've pointed out is that some of the tools and techniques that I've mentioned in the past, I've changed my approach in recent videos. And the reason for that is because when I first started building guitars, most of the information that was available was really geared towards repairing guitars. So I was borrowing some of those techniques and then using them to build my guitars and then sharing those techniques in videos. But as time has passed, in many situations I've learned that some of the older tools and techniques, while they're still viable, may not be optimal for building a brand new instrument. So I've learned that some of the approaches that I was taking, I've had to modify for building the new instruments. And if you've come across some of those videos and are wondering about some of the contradiction or discrepancies, I would encourage you to look at the date that those videos were posted. If it was something that was posted 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago, there is probably going to be something more current that is a better explanation for how to proceed with doing the work that you need to do on a brand new guitar. But I will say that a lot of those techniques are still viable, because I know that when I'm building a guitar, I'm very carefully selecting wood that I know is going to produce a really high quality instrument and that is not going to cause any issues. But I can't say that's true for everybody out there. So deciding what tools and techniques you use is going to require a little bit of experience in terms of being able to look at what you've got and deciding the best way to move forward. And that's really hard to explain in a video, but just know that in most situations, a technique, and this is especially true with fretwork and setups, if a technique that you try doesn't quite work the way you want it to, it's not like it's the end of the world. I mean, in the worst situation, you might have to pull up some frets and install new ones. But for the most part, if you level a fretboard that has a little bit of bow in it and it's not giving you the results that you wanted, you can adjust the truss rod, straighten out the neck, and re-level the frets, or install new ones and level them again, and you should be okay. But to really worry excessively about which technique you should use in the first place is just kind of a waste of time. So I would encourage you to do a lot more research. Don't just watch my videos. There are a lot of them out there, a lot of guys doing this work. But bear in mind, everything that I'm doing is geared towards building a brand new instrument, not repairing an old vintage instrument. So as far as the guitars that I'm currently working on, I've got two that are almost finished, and I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer so you can see in detail where they stand at the moment. So first up on the workbench is the Sci-fi guitar, which is almost finished. I've installed the neck and all the electronics and the bridge. So what I have left to do is to wind up the pickups, and I'll get those installed. But as you can see, it's coming along nicely. I have to get this one finished and to the customer in mid-October. So I'm in no big rush to get it done. And in fact, it's probably going to go back up on the wall and sit for a few days while I work on a few other projects at the same time. So, but that's where this one stands. And I'm pretty happy with how it's turning out. Okay, so next up on the workbench, I have the cow skull guitar that I've been working on. And this one features the inlay design that I did of a cow skull. And it's kind of an ivory pattern using the polymer clay technique. And you can kind of see it's basically a cream white color inlay with some blue vein in it, almost like a marble kind of pattern or texture. And I have so far finished installing a lot of the hardware. So I've got the electronics installed, the bridge, pickups, and if you look closely, you'll notice that all the hardware has been artificially aged or relicked, and this was done using the muriatic acid vapor technique, which I'm not going to describe here because it would take a little too long to explain how it's done. But there are other videos on YouTube that talk about how to do it, and maybe down the road, if I ever do this again, I'll talk about it. But it gives a nice patina to the surface, a little bit of rust, that kind of thing, makes everything look nice and old. And I know some of you think that approach is cool looking, and others absolutely can't stand it. Whatever, I'm not going to get into it. I talked about that in a previous episode. And here's the neck for the cow skull guitar, and it's basically just a maple neck. And what I did was I sanded the shaft of the neck with all the way to 220 grit sandpaper. And then what I did was I applied some burnt umber artist oil paint, which was thinned with a little bit of mineral spirits and a few drops of Japan dryer, so it would dry quickly. And I applied that to the heel and then around the volute, so it would give it kind of this, I don't know, rustic aged look to it. Then I simply clear coated the whole thing with nitrocellulose lacquer, and it looks pretty good. So all I need to do now is just do a light sanding, maybe hit it with some steel wool, and when that's finished, I will be ready to install it. And this guitar will be very nearly complete. All I'll need to do is fabricate the nut and string it up. So that is where things stand right now with the two projects that I'm currently working on. And you're probably wondering, 2 guitars, is that all he's working on? And yeah, that's at this moment today, that's all I'm working on. But I have finished up some other guitars for customers, and I don't always like to share customers' builds because they don't like me to share it with the public, and out of respect for their wishes, I keep a lot of those kind of under the covers. Although occasionally when I'm working on something that I think is really unique, I'll ask client if it would be okay to share that, and occasionally they do. But I typically keep those between myself and the client. It's a private sort of thing. They're always afraid that someone's going to steal the design, and next thing they know, their cool-looking custom guitar is being cranked out by the thousands from some company in China. So I think that's a little bit unwarranted, but I'm going to respect those wishes. So, okay, now, next thing I want to talk about is the guitar projects that I am currently in the process of designing for some future builds. Going forward, I have decided that I'm going to put the Apollyon and the Osiris designs that I have been building for the last couple of years into semi-retirement, sort of like they're on hiatus. I don't have any plans to build them anytime soon, and what I'm going to do instead is create two new designs that are similar but different enough that they're going to get new names. Now, unfortunately, I don't have both designs ready for you to see, but I do have one of them, and that is the Highline Custom Guitars Bravo. And as you can see, the Bravo is going to be a dual humbucker single cutaway design. And in fact, it can actually probably be any kind of a pickup configuration. And I've been thinking about doing some different pickups, maybe some P90s or some single coils instead of just the humbuckers. Everything I've been doing up in the last couple of years up till recently have been dual humbuckers, but I have built guitars in the past which featured P90s and single coils, and they're a lot of fun to do, and they have great sound. So, but this is sort of what I'm working on at the moment, and it's going to feature the same general neck design that I used on both the Osiris and the Apollyon, but with one major difference. I am planning to do it's going to be a semi-deep tenon set in neck design instead of the Bolton that I've been doing in the past. And it'll still be a 25.5-inch scale fretboard length. And what I want to do is, as a set-in, this is a side view here at the top, is I want the neck to be level with the body. So I'm going to probably use a Fender-style hardtail bridge, because if I was going to do a tune-o-matic bridge, I would have to angle the neck. And to simplify construction, I'm going to stick with the Fender-style hardtail. And that would also mean that I could use, a Fender-style tremolo or a Floyd Rose-style tremolo, and I can still keep that neck level. So what I'm doing is I'm combining all the different ideas and styles that I have used in the past that I found to be successful into this one design. And then I'm going to do a double cutaway, which I don't have drawn up at the moment, and that's going to be called the Echo. So Bravo Echo, take it from the military alphabet. And it's going to be a similar kind of design concept as the Bravo. And one thing you'll notice is up at the top of the body here, I have a bevel that's going to be incorporated for comfort, that sort of thing. And I'm not going to do that on the bottom. At least I don't think I'm going to do it. I haven't totally decided that yet. But I kind of like the idea of doing just a simple bevel on the top and then leaving the bottom flat on the edge. And then on the back side of the guitar, I'll do a Fender-style comfort belly cut. So it'll be comfortable to play for guys with a little bit of a protuberance around the waist, so to speak. So that is where this design stands at the moment. And I am in the process of finalizing the Bravo, and then I'll be preparing the files for CNC so I can start cutting bodies on my CNC machine. So that's where the future lies. So we'll see how this turns out. Let me know what you think.